What is up, everyone, and welcome to another issue of Sibling Rival-Read, the comic book club show that me and my sister do on a weekly basis, just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
We sit down and we pick a comic book or manga every week, and we try to choose things that help people kind of get into comic books, because it can be really daunting with how many issues of any given hero there are out there. Where to start, what to read, what to look at, what's good, what's bad, and what to kind of avoid.
And then we judge each other on our picks.
Yep.
And get punished accordingly.
Indeed. Indeed. I still have to redo my punishment for that second batch, too.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways. This week, our book, Anna, is... Oh, by the way, I'm Ben Pye, your host, along with me, my sister.
Anakin! Anna. Kin. Okay. This week's pick is my pick, and it is our Marvel pick for this rotation, cycle, whatever. And that is God of Thunder, Thor, God of Thunder, the God Butcher.
Yes.
Which,
Some confusion this time.
So just in case, people read the omnibus or something like that, we ended up accidentally, I picked the volume 1 where it's issues 1 through 5.
Yeah. So there are two different volume 1s in Comixology. One of them is the God of Thunder volume 1, so what would have been volume 1 as a trade paperback.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Omnibus volume 1, which would have come out after this run of comics was completed. So what we read was Thor, God of Thunder, volume 1, The God Butcher, which did not, which, as Anna said, only included issues 1 through 5. The Omnibus includes issues 1 through 6 and closes out 1 through 11. That's right. 6 more issues.
Yeah.
That's what was going on. That's what was going on in my head. 1 through 11, and closes out this storyline. So, for the sake of spoilers, since Anna and I only told people to read God of Thunder, God Butcher, that is all we're going to be discussing today.
Yep.
And as far as...
So it ended with a cliffhanger.
Yes, very much so. But yeah, let's jump into it. Mm-hmm. So this one is...
I feel so bad that I ended it with a cliffhanger.
So it's okay, because I think this was good quality Thor.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm bummed that, I didn't get to finish the entire story arc.
Yeah.
Or of that one. It's great in the sense where it's a great beginning of this entire new Thor run.
Yes. And I will say for sure that almost the moment that we're done with this, I am going to read volume 2. Because I really want to know. I have my own theories for how it's going to conclude.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this was an interesting Thor pick, or an interesting Thor book in the sense that you're running across 3 different points in Thor's life.
And I liked the back and forth
a lot.
Especially for those simple one-liners of "I will kill you," or even if it's my last breath, and then you cut to a single panel of old Thor, and you're just oh,
come on, this has got to be the end, right?
And the first issue was a great opener
for
really those 3 points of view, because
even though the future part was the shortest. It was 2 pages worth of panels, I think.
Sure.
But it was really, really cool. I really enjoyed the 3 different Thors. And it's great because you kind of get to see his character growth, um, like all at once. And it didn't not like character growth that felt rushed or anything like that, but like very obvious. Like his character took hundreds
Of
of
years.
years to grow and mature and all of that.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like seeing this Thor here, which I believe was present. This is present day Thor because
Yes,
he's got the
because he
hammer
has the helmet.
and the helmet.
Doesn't mean he has the hammer in the old Thor too.
And then you've got like super cocky looking, not even young Thor. Like at this point, he's been
like
alive for
200 years.
um, like it's great. He doesn't have Mjolnir yet. He's not quite worthy of Mjolnir yet. But you get to see his character grow from this young dude.
Also, just for like a heads up, anytime that I'm talking about the hammer, I'm probably gonna pull a Darcy and just go mew mew.
um,
I can't say.
Mjolnir. Super easy. Um,
I loved the new, like the other gods
yeah.
throughout
So
this entire thing. I really loved seeing all of the other
let's
gods.
just give like a brief synopsis of this story. God Butcher is really really cool villain. In the sense that
Super creepy
he
character
was
design.
incredibly creepy. It was really neat character design though.
Yeah.
The only thing that kind of made it weird for me was his shadow nipples that like hung all the way down here. Um,
Oh my god.
it was weird, okay? But really, really neat villain that essentially controls shadows
In a
in a
way.
way, yeah. But at this point in Volume One, you don't truly understand. Um,
Who he is.
yeah, and
Or how he
his
got his power
backstory.
or what his power is.
What you know is that he feels betrayed by gods because he thinks that they either do nothing or cause a lot of mayhem, war, and destruction. There's no in between. So his one goal in his life is to go and kill every god um, across all the pantheons. So we see Thor traveling from world to from our world to another and answering the prayer of some random alien race and asks the questions, why are you praying to me? Why aren't you praying to your own gods?
Which then I was like, what?
Yeah.
Did you also?
That was kind of like, oh, interesting. I
He
thought
got
this was going to
angry.
be. I thought this was going to be like this thing is just killing Asgardians.
Asgardians.
But no, this guy is going and killing.
I honestly thought it was going to be an Asgardian killing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I didn't know.
and he's just going and killing all the gods. And they mention all of the pantheons.
Well, yeah.
So like part of me believes that the like he's
Love that. I love that full page.
um part of me believes that I don't know, but they I don't know. But like they mention even the different pantheons on Earth,
Yeah, that was awesome.
which
to
I thought
me.
was really cool too.
The first thing you see that indicates like a god butcher is the beheaded Native American
Slavic god.
Slavic god.
Yeah,
Okay,
not Native American.
my bad. But
Norse people were not fighting the Native Americans.
well, it came in the water, and it's a god whose skin doesn't decay for hundreds of years. I feel like my thing was not
Anyway.
necessarily but yeah, anyway. And so That's the first one you see, and then later they talk about Olympus, and you're just like,
Oh,
oh, I
oh.
want to see them all.
Yeah. Here we go. Here we got
Old.
old Daddy Thor. Like, holy crap. Um, and it was great.
I really, yeah, it was super,
3
super
pages.
enjoyable.
3 pages of Old Man Thor at the end of the first issue. But yeah,
And like the library also, because later when present day Thor realizes that Gore, who's the God Butcher's name, or what that's the God Butcher's name, is still alive, he goes to the library to kind of try to figure out how many others he's killed. If he didn't succeed in killing him like 2,000 years ago, then how many people died because of it? And there's this huge
the halls of the
um
all-knowing. Was that what it was called?
sounds about right. Like section of missing gods. And then you got to see all these like really weird alien gods, which I thought was so cool. Such fun character design elements in it, and the different worlds that you got to hear about that I hadn't heard about before. I hadn't heard about any aside from the 9
The
realms.
9 realms.
Based in the Thor comics, because I haven't read much of Thor comics.
Right. Well, and again, it was so. I haven't read many Thor comics either, so I'm kind of curious as to whether or not, like, are the other pantheons mentioned like regularly in Thor comics, or do they come up at other points in Thor comics as well, or is it just this is
I'd be interested to know that, especially when he was referencing like the god that he did know that he saw die, the big like ice dragon thingy.
Yes.
Because he was talking about a tournament. So I mean, I would imagine that there's some events like that could happen in the Thor comics as like a random couple
He
issue
doesn't have
spread.
the weird shadow nipples there, but he's a scary looking villain.
I love it.
He kind of looks like Voldemort to me.
I love it.
Like
The tattoos moving, I was like, what is that?
Well, it's so neat because you can see him manifest his power here, where it's like he
Yeah.
calls forth shadows to become like this solid
Shadows and ink, because I mean, it looks like ink on his skin, and it just curled up out of there.
Yeah, but they talk about shadows and shadow hounds and in it. That's why I keep calling it shadows. But I could see the ink aspect as well. But like it's crazy. He has a good name too, Gore, for the fact that nothing he does is not gory.
Yeah. His whole thing is like suffering and seeing the fear in the god's eyes, and knowing or exposing all of the secrets of a god before he dies.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I loved all of the like close-up face panels. Both of him and of Thor. I mean, some of the Thor ones were like, dude, you got crazy eyes. But
and I really I liked the I liked the now tell me, what was Thor the god of before he died?
yeah, I know. And right when you say thunder, I'm like, ooh, please go. And then the next panel is that exactly.
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful panel.
Something that I really liked throughout this entire thing was, I mean, even in this with the bright highlight and the shadow, you also see it in all of the really darks, like all of the blacks when it's all encompassing black or shadow, is the sectioned off like dagged lines where you can tell that like almost like they used a marker on paper and they went section by section, and with the different directions it really gives it a super eerie mood.
Mm-hmm.
And like the shadows are moving, which I thought was perfect for this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
um
Um, but it was such a neat villain. I loved it. I loved it. Oh, and here's the.
it looks
his,
like a
his
big
frame.
ice puppy.
He does. He does.
And just the fact that the hound came through the carcass, I was like, ooh.
Oh, yeah. And I loved these transition pages
Yeah,
as well, where we saw it in the last page that
very
was up here as
cinematic.
well. Exactly. Um, but I mean, just look at the art. This. So there were two artists that were on this. It was Assad Ribic and um, Butch Guice. Um, but
Or guys.
it might be that. But like, look at the veins.
I know. Oh my god. Every time they drew the veins, I was like, that looks great.
And this right here, this was my favorite panel.
Yeah.
Just look at that. That is just Thor looks good old, man.
I had such a well, he's also immortal, so I mean, it's like Harrison Ford a few years ago, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
Or then it stops for them, rather. I had such a hard time picking a favorite panel. I don't think I had so many aspects that I liked from so many different panels that I was just like, I can say easily what my like least favorite part was artistically.
And what's that?
The blood puddle. Blood pool.
Uh-huh.
And that was only because I felt like the style changed a little too much.
You know what though? That actually might be what the art differences were. Like it switching artists from one comic. See, look, he's got the shadows coming out of his nipples.
Moving on.
But
It kind of just looks like a tattoo over a nipple.
No.
But see, you see what I mean in terms of the change?
Uh-huh.
I thought that was too drastic. So that was probably my least favorite. And also because I just really loved the art style throughout. And then you got like this super modern art. With the time people. But yeah, go back. Sorry, I'm like really close to the mic.
You're fine.
So these bottom two, where it looks like the shadows are moving because how they sectioned off the coloring, it gives it energy and like all of the lines, and it was really, really creepy. And so when his face came out of it, you really weren't surprised because you felt like something was going to be moving anyway, even though it's a still picture.
Right.
It was great.
No, I agree.
I also thought the librarian was dead at that point.
So did I.
So I mean, when he got up and was moving around, I was like, "Sir."
There's like a small part of me that truly believes that the librarian is a bad guy.
And him, I don't trust. That alien thing, who keeps changing what he's the god of.
Oh. Yeah, I think he's just crazy.
I know he's crazy, but is he crazy and like so crazy that he's aligned himself with his tormentor?
Right. He kind of almost looks like
the gods that we saw die in one of those search panels, right?
Yeah. I was going to say he kind of looks similar to Gore.
No. But I'm also saying that probably more.
Well, he's got like the Leku of a Twi'lek. They've both got like the Leku of a Twi'lek.
Yeah, but go further into the beginning, and I think you'll see an alien that looks, or a god, sorry,
yeah,
that
yeah.
looks much more like him than that. Also, this panel of the past scene where all the Vikings came to go and rescue Thor,
Dude,
all the sketch etching and things like that were very obviously dark, but also very reminiscent of like an adventure story, like a kid's book, except gory.
yeah, I agree. And I loved the portrayal of Vikings because that is, of my knowledge of Vikings, which is not very vast. Um, but it's like that is what Vikings were. It's like, nah, we don't care. If we go into a battle and we die, well, hey, we go to Valhalla and we get to fight at Ragnarok, so let's go. Like a Viking's goal in life was to die fighting
Yeah.
so that they could go to Valhalla.
So the panel that I'm talking about would be around where you saw the big snow dog die. Because it's one of those aliens when he's like planet jumping.
Gotcha.
See?
Oh, like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
And I mean, some of these aliens, I'm like, oh, I want to know what they are like that coral one.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one in the top panel there.
Super cool. Also, the
Dismemberment.
that thank you. Dismemberment process of a lot of these like panels, both super gross but super well done because it wasn't overly gory. Kind of looked like sliced ham. See, and all of the shadows in there too. Awesome. Wait.
Did I accidentally switch books?
Yes, you did. I was like,
How did I
haven't
do
read
that?
that yet.
I know. I was like, wait. Oh, I clicked on the omnibus. when I was like, wait.
I was like, you haven't met that character yet.
I was trying to find like all this again.
Yeah. You gotta be careful.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. I was thinking possible Infinity Stones, but
No.
I just didn't know what he cracked.
I think they were just part of the time travel magic. So by cracking it, it was to kind of prevent Thor from following him.
Gotcha.
Also, the character development, like design wise, of Gore from when he is
yeah.
very Star Wars esque.
Yeah. I mean, like you see him go from absolutely crazy to utterly insane.
In such a reserved way, though.
Yeah.
When you see him in the quote unquote present.
But the end part of this comic where we get to the point where Thor is like, okay, I'm following him, and he gets to future and sees himself, and
he goes, Father? No.
I would have.
He's
It
also
was
real sassy to himself.
yes,
Old
he
him is super sassy to young him.
Yep. Well, I think old him is like, man, I really was
an idiot.
I was full of myself. But you know, as soon as they were at this pool, all I could think of was, oh, all three Thors are gonna be fighting this guy.
And I mean, if that's the case, can you imagine what old Thor is gonna do with the youngest one? Like,
I know.
dang.
I know.
But yeah. And I really enjoyed it. Like, to the point where I would consider I'm gonna finish this one, because I mean, you end it on a cliffhanger of it being 900 years between when Gore went through and when Thor went. Gore. Thor.
Gore Thor.
Gore. Thor. Gore. Thor. If you say it a certain way, it kind of sounds like the George of the Jungle theme song.
Yeah, only if you say it like you. Anyways.
I said a certain way. Anyway, but and then your like cliffhanger is essentially alluding to Gore's backstory. This is the new one.
Yes, it is.
Alluding to his backstory.
I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to see a Thor from 800 AD.
Come to the future. Future.
It was just so cool, and I mean, it was a good story. It was a great villain.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you can't say it in past tense because we're technically only halfway through the story.
Yeah, no, I know, but the story, the bite of the story that we read was good. It was gripping. It had everything that I wanted in a story, and I've always struggled to find Thor to be an interesting hero. I think what kind of made him more interesting or more a character that I wanted to know more about was the MCU. Like if like the Thor movies hadn't come out, or we hadn't seen kind of a fun Thor, I don't know that if you had picked this, I would have been like, oh, I have to read a Thor comic. Whereas like you picked this, I'm like, oh, I've been really wanting to read a Thor comic, but I don't really know what I want to read.
Yeah.
This
is definitely not like a humorous, fun-loving Thor.
No, but it has like the other things that I'm really interested in, like mythology.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings all of them together in a way.
And introduces mythology that doesn't currently exist.
Right. And
super cool.
The other thing that's neat about it is it gives you kind of a Thor origin without being an origin story.
Yeah, so I mean it's literally the perfect volume 1.
Yeah.
For a new
reader of Thor comics. 100% agree. I think this was a good pick.
Yay.
Like I was I was really happy with this one.
Made up for Fathom.
I think like pacing wise it was really good too. I didn't feel like it started too slow, but I also didn't feel like it started at this speed and then all of a sudden we're fighting a villain. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, no. I will say, like, text box wise, it took me a bit to get used to how wordy Thor is. But that's not anything against like the writers or anything. It's just about
Thor.
Yeah.
And something that I did find kind of interesting about this is like they've always done the lettering for Thor differently.
Yeah.
But I liked how they also did the lettering for Gore.
Yeah, it gave him a very like slithery.
Yeah.
God,
it's like reading. He had a voice.
Yeah, but it reminded me of you remember how they wrote the text in the Harry Potter books for the snake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Parseltongue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like, oh, and now how I picture him talking.
Yeah. That's
which also is fine because you said he kind of looks like
he kind of looks like Voldemort. Uh-huh. But and then the villain, like I always say like the best villains are ones that you can relate to in a way. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of villains in comic books that are very, very difficult to relate to. And I'm not saying Gore is easy to relate to, but you can understand his point of view, even without knowing his backstory of gods are either, butchers, murderers,
or they don't do anything
mayhem.
And they're kind of just given all of this praise and adoration for no reason.
Right. And either way, they let their followers down.
Hmm.
And I think it's an interesting thing to kind of bring that question of faith up to a reader. Not that, I don't think you have to read this and then question your faith in any way, shape, or form, but it does bring up that interesting question of like,
Yeah, and I thought the most interesting like part that addressed that was also when Gore is trying not to kill the Vikings.
yeah, and that was the
Like
most interesting part to me about his character.
how he was like, you've proven that or humans have proven that they fear not having a god even more than just because, it leaves so many open questions to what happens next.
Yeah. And like if you look at the history of Earth's
The
pantheons,
need for a god
mhm.
versus the
Well, and again, if you look at the history of Earth's pantheons, it's like the gods, Greek gods were not great beings. Neither were the Norse gods. But it's like there isn't a pantheon where the gods of that pantheon are like great, happy-go-lucky people. I mean, even and then so that's the
I
one
just
extreme, and then you've got the other extreme of the Christian God or I mean,
or the Eden planet gods who sounded amazingly
yeah,
peaceful and
right.
hipster, and I really liked it.
But like the those that's a God who you know sits back and lets people make their own choices and decisions. So can be easily perceived as not doing anything.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought it brought that up in kind of an interesting and
New way.
yeah, and in a way that like I pick up on it because like I'm dissecting story as we read through it, um, and it might not be something that someone reading Thor is going to be like, oh wow, that's deep, kind of thing. But it's there, and it makes for an interesting story because I could easily see that being a person like Gore being a human questioning their faith,
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah. I also
Um,
thought that the questioning the faith perspective and how the story was unraveling with the perspective of all of the different types of gods that there were
mhm.
humanized the characters
Yeah,
in a really good and cool way for like, lack of sophisticated vocabulary.
it's hard to humanize an immortal,
Yeah.
and I feel like they did it. Um, because one thing, especially when you're looking at Old Man Thor, like what, even though he's immortal, even an immortal can experience some sort of pain, suffering, loss,
The
and
torturing of Gore, that's really like done really well to humanize. So I
yeah,
mean, old Thor is being essentially tortured
yeah. I mean,
by
just
Thor, and even young Thor when he was like, it's taken 17 days, and at that point, I was like, you go, Thor.
yeah, get it, Thor, get it. Um, but it's like even at the end, like at this scene here,
Oh, where he
where he's
thinks he's
like,
dying,
yeah,
and then he gets taken back to
he
that
gets
was gut
dragged.
wrenching, and he was like, oh, I feel it, I'm lifting off, I'm being spirited away. And you're like,
It's like, oh no, buddy, they're dragging you. Like Gore finds his way to torture Thor, and that is to force him to sit on the throne of Asgard.
alone.
Yeah, dragged up to it, and it's so well done.
Mm-hmm.
Such a good story. Like hands What's the phrase?
Hands down.
No. Hats off. I was gonna
Okay.
say
Well, you
hands
said
off.
hands.
I know,
So
but I was like, wait, no, you don't want to take your hands off. Hats off to Jason Aaron because this story was so well done. And another hats off to the artist because this was different art than anything we've read.
it was, and I really, really liked it. The only thing that totally gutted me about it was that it broke into a very modern style in points of the story that have already been very established in the previous art style. So like that broke the story up for me in a way that I was sad about because I really loved
Yeah.
this art style. Oh my god, I tried writing down how I felt about the art style because I couldn't come up with words. And if I read this, you can't make fun of me because you're going to be like, "Dear God, I don't understand what you're saying."
Okay.
Okay, so it goes from a warm oil paint with a halo of storytelling and wonder to ink on aged parchment, and it's always pretty and always reminiscent of what you expect old stories and fairy tales to look like if they were illustrated outside of the mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That
can
was the
definitely see
best
that.
way that I was trying to say what I felt like about the art.
I don't feel like I noticed that huge of a difference in art style. Like I still
Because it doesn't happen all the time. Go back.
Right.
So, like, there's this which still matches up, but then go back. Go back, go back, go back when he's like coming out of the water. Give me this. I can take the controller.
um
Where is the. Nope.
browse pages
Where? Okay.
where it says browse pages.
Okay. So, from this,
Uh-huh.
like, sketchy, artistic style to this that looks like it was done on the computer.
So I still see the sketchy, like artistic styling here.
In the characters,
I
but not
think-
in the environment. And the environment is
But I
the
think that's
biggest focal
because
point in
but
this.
I think the environment being the focal point and that being a place where time just goes everywhere,
But I mean, here.
I thought it was fitting. That's a different This is a library in
I
the
know,
world of
but
Thor. This is a place of time gods.
look, the time god setting broke everything for me a little bit too much. Like, it broke it up
This
too
one
much.
page.
Yes,
broke
this one
everything
and this
for
one.
you.
Even this character right here, the
Looks
baby god.
exactly
No,
like-
it
Yes, it
doesn't.
does.
No.
That the way the face is done there.
The way the face is done, but there's a difference between like the
It's the-
drawing and the coloring,
It's
and the
because of the
coloring
c-
isn't the same.
Yeah, because it's different. It's a different world, Anna.
So we see all the other different worlds, and there's
Thi-
still a
and this is
through.
this is a void. There's literally nothing else.
Look, agree to disagree. Okay?
Yeah, I guess
And
so.
I still said I really loved the art, and I told the story. He looks terrifying,
Yes.
holding the big
The big
baby
guy.
heart.
Yep.
Sorry.
Can you stop
I'm
clicking guided view?
Sorry.
This is why I hold the mouse.
I want to be a god. But, and I mean, once it got back to
Because it
the,
wasn't
like,
showing the
faded,
sky and the world beyond the pool anymore.
once it got back to like the faded glowing effect of like, kind of looks like a grim fairy tale
This
with
death
like
was absolutely
colored
horrifying,
pencils
by the
and
way.
stuff like that. Yeah, with his little tentacle going
Yeah.
straight through under the chin. I was like, well, you could hear the gagging
Yep.
and the gargling and the death and the
Yep.
but all of this was super pretty and gorgeously rendered, and I was just sad about that other.
The one page.
Stop. Okay. And I mean, I read a little bit of the next volume, which I'm not going to judge it on the next volume, but issue number 6 is a completely different art style that matches that one page, sir.
I don't believe you.
Look it.
Okay, that's. Oh yeah, it does. But it does not match those 2 pages.
It's fine, but like the coloring does match the 2 pages. The inking doesn't match that one page that I was talking about, but the color blocking does. Whereas all of the others are really soft and blended, and that one was such like clunky. Okay, now you're going too far into the next volume then.
Yeah, I'm just looking. You know.
Spoilers?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Spoilers. um, but this is definitely.
This is the kind of art that I want to see
I'm gonna
more
put
of
this
in comics.
as we kind of wrap up our discussion.
Mm-hmm. This is like a beautiful. It looks like they did it with charcoal and pastels, and it's amazing.
It's wonderful.
But this is the kind of art that I want to see more of in comics, personally, that look much more hand-drawn and like it looked like marker and pencil and
Yeah, I don't know that I want to see more, like a lot more of it though, because I liked how different it was. Like how this is a pretty modern book. Did it come out?
I have no idea. 2019. Copyright 2019.
Yeah, I don't think that's when it came out though. Maybe it is, actually. Um, but like for a modern comic book, like it was nice to. I want there to be more difference.
November 14th, 2012 was when it came out.
Okay. I want there to be more things, more variety in art, and
That I can agree with. Like,
so that's where I mean, like I don't want
only
a lot of comic books to be this. I want to be able to find these.
But I would prefer
read
more
them.
comics to be like this than like having more comics be like
Fathom.
Fathom was still a different art style. Just because we didn't like it is a different story. But like this compared to even the Green Arrow comic that we read. The Green Arrow comic that we read was pretty classic comic book art. Nothing super special about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
And I would much rather have this become the new normal art style wise.
Yeah,
and
again,
that's just a personal preference.
Yeah,
I do see what you're saying.
I don't feel like this art style would fit everyone. Though. Like I can't imagine seeing.
It would do well for Wonder Woman.
Yeah. You mean the DC version of Thor?
Look, I have this one Wonder Woman comic that I think I really want to read, and I can't freaking find it anywhere after finding like 40 million copies of it at the bookstore a couple weeks ago, and now they don't have any because they decided to organize the one section.
How dare they? How dare they organize? Anyways, no, that store really does need to organize, though. I now know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But like this would not do well. I don't think I would enjoy reading Spider-Man in this art style.
Yeah, okay. Not every storyline for Spider-Man. There might be a story
for
Spider-Man.
Storylines, I don't. Yeah, but and definitely not Iron Man.
But you do see Iron Man in this. And like
yeah,
I'm convinced that you're gonna see the Olympian gods at some point. We haven't yet. But I'm convinced because that's what Iron Man left to go and do.
That's true. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really neat. And I did, bringing up the Iron Man thing, that's something I did forget. I did find it kind of heartwarming, and then I thought to myself, man, this is just going to give Tony a massive head.
About the God comment?
Yeah, about you're as close to a god as I know on this planet. Like, yeah. It's like, oof. I mean, that's I like the sentiment. But
also, I've never seen the black suit.
No, the black suit comes up pretty frequently in the tens.
I really didn't. I stopped reading Iron Man after learning what his character does in the Civil War comics. I got a little salty.
Yeah, you are as much a god as any immortal I have ever known.
Thanks, I'll go fly away.
Yeah. And it was good.
Also, how they rendered armor in this was beautiful with the reflection, and how they did that was
Yeah.
absolutely stunning
I
in old Thor and in young.
one of the things that like makes or break comic book art for me, the faces.
I know, for expressions.
And God, they did such a good job with the faces. Like I absolutely love it. Like
Which is like,
it was phenomenal.
it was phenomenal. But I mean, with it being so good,
Uh-huh.
and what you're supposed to see on those faces was terrifying. Because
Yeah.
you just saw terror depicted into these beautifully illustrated profiles and everything. And you're just like, dear God, and decapitated heads.
But it's like look at like Thor's face here. I would it's like grim warning.
Yeah, it definitely looks
Like
like he's ready for a fight, as opposed to like here in the beginning where he sees the head.
oh yeah,
Or it's like
his
the double
eyes
chin.
there.
And you're just like, oh my God. And then even the next panel, when you see him have a more stern face, like, I do realize what this is, but everybody else cannot.
Yeah, and it was so interesting. And then I think the other big facial expression that I thought was really well done and super powerful was when he was being tortured. God, I can't see things on these little.
And when he was being tortured, and when you're supposed to think that he was about to cave.
Yeah.
And Gore was like, you have someone you don't like a mother, a father, a brother,
a sibling.
And you're just like,
Uh-oh.
don't do it.
Here we go. Like this.
Yeah, the terror on Thor's face hanging upside down with those spiky chains. Spiky chains look terrifying.
Chains. The shadow chains.
Yeah, but they had little daggers on them at
Yeah.
one point, and that was terrifying looking. But in the last panel you also showed, I loved the posing of Gore and how like nonchalant he was.
He's like, oh, look at you.
It very much depicts the initial story that you read of Thor saying that there was a god, an Asgardian, that went like mad and started killing everybody. And he was convinced that he was doing the right thing, and was like, and described the encounter and the look in his eyes and all of that. And they very much did a great job depicting that with Gore.
I agree.
Especially given that Gore does not look human.
Correct. But I loved it. I loved the story. I loved the art. Let's get on to our ratings.
Okay.
Shall we?
Yep. You start with story.
Shall we? So story for me, I mean, it was a really well done story. Again, I think pacing was awesome. And I like where the story is going. I liked that it wasn't like a bright, sunshiny Thor. I liked the darkness of it. So I honestly think that I want to give this story, trying to think of if like what kind of fault that the story might have, and I really can't think of a fault. I think it was a fairly flawless story, so I'm gonna give it a 10.
Wow. Starting strong, Anna.
And on top of that, I think it was a great a great book for people to dive into
I
Thor.
agree. I didn't realize when I picked it that it was the beginning of a new.
You mean Volume 1 didn't give it away?
I will say this again. You didn't realize it was Volume 1 either initially.
No, I did.
No, you didn't, because you corrected me when I said Volume 1. You said it's literally just called God Butcher. And if we still had the tape, I could go back to it.
Yeah, I don't think I said that.
You did say
that. Anyways,
I just thought it was like a story taken out of the middle of a thing. But
I think what I might have thought it was a one-shot like Thor story. You know how
I just said.
No, you
Oh, I
said
said
like
it was
a
taken,
story
sorry.
taken out of.
Yes, sorry.
I think what I thought was Jason Aaron got to do a 12-issue arc of Thor, 11-issue arc of Thor, and this is that.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was.
Which it makes me really excited that it's an entire run.
Right. And something that is really common in Thor comics is they don't go on for very long. Because otherwise, I truly believe Thor is not a super interesting character. It isn't until recently, or like the last 30, 40 years recently, that I feel like...
Really, that long?
For the last 30... Can I finish my statement?
Yeah.
For the last 30 or 40 years, I think that's when like they started trying to make Thor comics more interesting. Because it's like, how do you relate to a god? You can relate to Peter Parker because
you a person.
Yeah. Or like even some aspects of the Hulk you can relate to. You know, you can relate to a lot of superheroes. Thor being a god, it's like
Okay. I can see where you're saying, like what you're saying with that. In the same realm, I'm kind
but
of
I
like,
didn't feel that way with this book.
I enjoyed this book a lot, but for your comment, I'm kind of like, yeah, but they did that with Wonder Woman and Superman. Like neither one of them are super duper.
Yeah, but they made
relatable.
them more. I agree, and I think also that Superman comics, even when you look at like past Superman comics, you see like on the list of the best Superman comics that most of them are written in or written in the last 30, 40 years. I think that Superman had traction just
and Smallville did so good.
So well.
I'm gonna keep mine good, Ben. You know what? You fix your own grammar.
Superman does good.
Okay, my story rating would be... So I feel silly giving it a 10. And I think I just feel silly about giving it a 10 because it's such a perfect score.
Well, so that was my thing too. It's like I'm sitting here, I'm trying to figure out like what are the boxes that I need to tick if I'm going to give it a 10, and what kind of critique could I give the story if I were to try to score it lower. And I don't think I've said one negative thing about the book. Yeah. And I don't think that... and again, this is for the first 5 issues. It could be that I read issues 6 through 11, and then I find that thing.
Yeah.
But for issues 1 through 5, even with the cliffhanger being there, to me it was
well placed. It wasn't.
Yeah. It was the story itself was flawless.
Yeah.
Up to this point.
I think that the character was really well developed. It was a really good starting point for anybody wanting to read a Thor comic.
Super accessible.
And it's perfect then also for someone who wants to continue to like get into the character, since this is an entire run through. So, I mean,
I'm at least going to finish this arc.
Same. And, well, obviously, because I already borrowed the omnibus. I didn't see...
Reading volume 2.
I didn't see that it was volume 2. I got really confused, and so I just exited out and Googled it. Okay, anyway. So I guess I have to give it a 10 out of 10. I think the other thing that would be like, oh, but I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10 is because it's also a Thor comic. So I never really imagined super enjoying a Thor comic, which isn't to say that like
But you did enjoy it.
I did enjoy it, and still not, I'm not going to say that this is going to make him one of my favorite superheroes, but
No.
do really enjoy the comic. So I'm going to give it a 10.
Good.
10 out of
Good. You get to
Art.
jump into art. I'm gonna lean back while you talk
So
about it.
for me, okay, so I did have negatives to say, or a negative to say about the art that Ben
We've already
doesn't agree
argued.
with.
I don't.
But I really liked the majority of the art style. I liked my little blurb that I got to write down because it sounded way more cohesive and like, or not cohesive, coherent than I thought it would. I'm like, oh, pat myself on the back for, sounding like a person who has complete unfractured thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I really loved the art style, loved all of the blacks. I love the cover art, which I know we don't judge really the cover art.
Well, the artist that did the cover art is the same artist that did the book. So.
And I did have a super hard time picking a favorite panel. I don't even think I did pick a favorite panel. I kept just going, oh, I love this. Oh, I love this. So I'm going to give it a 9. And the only reason I'm not giving it a 10 is because of...
That's 3 pages, 2 pages.
I'm sticking with my score, Ben.
That's fine. 2 pages out of 120, that's fine.
That's still a high score for me.
It is still a high score. I'm just giving her a hard time for it.
It's a high score for me.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I think the non-traditional art style for comics for the time period was awesome.
I poked myself too hard in the chest. That hurt.
Good job. I'm the same way. I really liked the contrast. I really loved the facial expressions.
And the character design.
The character designs were wonderful. I think I'm giving this a 10 out of 10 also. Which is crazy to me because I don't.
What's also super funny to me is I didn't know that it was going to have such beautiful art because I mean you only get like the first 3 pages as a preview.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you going to really tell from the first few pages?
Yeah.
So I find that funny. So obviously, what's your overall score, Ben?
I mean, overall, it's 10. I'm going to give it a 7 for overall. But again, I'm going to reiterate, it is incredibly accessible and a perfect starting point for people who want to read a Thor book. And I think I really would love to see a MCU movie
with that
villain. With this villain.
I would love to see this villain. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
It would be so pretty.
It really would be.
And I would really like to see the 3 different Thors. That would be really, really cool.
And I don't think
that would be really hard. So
I don't think we'll ever get to see that.
I had hand care in my mouth.
As a story, just because. I mean,
you can get a different actor as old Thor.
No, I mean you could do the same actor for old Thor still.
I know, but I can imagine somebody's argument being like, that's a whole lot of Chris Hemsworth. Okay, nobody would say that's too much Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, no, I would love to see the MCU tackle this as a storyline. And now that Thor knows that time travel is a thing,
yeah,
I could see this being incredibly interesting. I don't think we're ever going to get it in that sense, but I would even love to see.
I want to see the villain.
Yeah, I would even love to see this as
cartoon.
Yeah, but the quality that DC does their cartoon movies.
Yeah.
Not the
How
quality.
cool would it be though if it was like also done to a similar artistic style as
Yeah.
the Wolf Walkers?
Ooh, yeah,
So cool.
that
We
would
still
be.
need to see that movie.
We do.
For me, overall, I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 because I'm not gonna let those, in Ben's opinion,
Two
pages,
pages.
bring down the entire score for the entire comic because I don't think that warrants the overall score. It did for the art, but
And I mean, we can always do an addendum to what we believe the score would be after finishing Volume 2 as well. With
that's
in a
fair.
blog post on itsbenpai.com or riddickdesigns.com.
That's fair.
And
I do want to start doing more blog posts.
yeah, we need with all that free time that we have, and all that free time that I'm about to have in like 4 weeks.
Touché.
Yeah.
Touché.
But I agree. I also want to throw out more blog posts because we are reading a lot more.
We are, and that's exactly why I would. That's the main reason why I'm like I kind of
Yeah.
want to.
Like I've been reading The Flash, Batman, Marauders. I'm caught up on Amazing Spider-Man right now. I'm going through Dr. Aphra. Like I've got a lot of stuff that I'm reading in between reading these books because I tend not to read our books until
The day or two before.
The day or two before.
Because you gotta keep it fresh in
Exactly.
your mind. Like
Sometimes
I feel always like I've way too procrastinated, but then I'm like, no, I really need it in my head.
because what I do find is when I do read our books, like if I were to read next week's book, which is my pick, we are reading Teen Titans: The Judas Contract.
That one's long, isn't it?
It's a 190 pages, I think.
Oh.
Not that much longer than this.
This is 120 or 130.
But I forgot the segue that I was doing.
Well, it sounded like you were saying that you have read the Judas Contract before.
If I were to read the Judas Contract tomorrow, or after recording this, I would probably read it again the day before we recorded this, or the day that we recorded this.
Yeah, I mean, just like what we did
mind.
with. I've read House of M before, so have you, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we reread it for.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Got to keep it fresh.
Yo.
Yep. Freaky fresh.
All right. Well, you just announced the book for next week.
Sure did.
And now, where do people find you, Ben?
Oh, wow. I'm kind of shocked by being asked this question. You guys can, of course, find Benpai pretty much everywhere as It's Benpai. You can find me on Twitch as It's Benpai. You can find me on Twitter. It's Benpai. TikTok. It's Benpai. I don't really TikTok, though, so don't look for me there. You can find me on Vine. Yeah, that's a thing that's still around. But
I was like, what's Vine? And now I remember.
Yeah, it was like Twitter but videos. God, there are some funny Vines. What do you have? A knife? No. Anyways, you can also find me on Instagram. It's BenPie. I will give you the heads up in about 4 weeks that Instagram is probably going to be nothing but baby pictures.
Adorable baby pictures of my adorable baby niece.
Yep. But you can find some of my more artistic stuff on BenPie Photo on Instagram. Now, Anna, where can they find you?
I turned the tables and I started with you.
Yeah, I know.
That was great. I am on the Instagram. I have 2 accounts. One personal, which is at this point mostly now comics stuff and a little bit of Hank. And that is Anna_Riddick. And then I have a art account, which is Riddick Designs. Riddick _designs. And then I also have a Twitter that Ben made me get, so posted like twice to it. And that is Riddick Designs, no underscore, because he also made fun of me for having an underscore.
Yeah, I don't understand the need for the underscore.
I just wanted it to match. Anyway, there is no underscore on the Twitter one, and those are the 2 places you can find me, or 3 if you count the 2 accounts on it.
I think Judas Contract is supposed to be pretty dark, too. I think we're picking a pretty dark month, man.
What was my...
Rack means.
That doesn't seem like it's gonna be dark. That
No,
one
that
seems
doesn't
like
seem
it's
like it.
comical.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that one.
Same here.
And then,
The-
you did pick a dark month.
I picked serious.
Dang.
Well, to be fair, I didn't know how serious this was going to be, so I don't know that
That's true.
I would have chosen two very serious things. Oops. Anyways, it's been wonderful, guys, and until next week, Shalom-Aste.
That was great and dramatic with your little glasses
Thanks,
going off.
thanks.